Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Margins Live. Caleb, we're back. Can you believe this?
I can't really, but it is good to be back. It's nice to see. It's nice to see you, Will Lopez. It's also nice to see that you are prepared. You're wearing your South Florida preparation outfit for Halloween.
Well, that means I failed because this is actually supposed to be a hazmat suit, and this was my hazmat mask. Nobody really cared about Will until I wore the mask. But yeah, this is how I spent the year 2020. Absolutely insane, would you say?
I mean, it's been pretty weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's a little weird.
Well, hey everybody, welcome. This is our relaunch of On the Margins Live. We're super excited to have everybody, and this has been an awkward year for all of us, including Caleb and I. We're not even in front of each other. Last time I think you saw us, we were sitting next to each other. Caleb, I miss your face. I miss everything about you, but I'm glad you're here and I'm glad we're here. And so we're kicking off the show right.
Yeah, it's fun to be back, and it's fun to do these shows. I mean, doing them over Zoom is kind of fun. We've got some surprises for this show, which is pretty great. But Will, most important, I want to ask you, what are you? Is this your Halloween get up? Is this what you're doing?
Yeah, well, this is my 9 to 5 get up. I want to make sure I don't catch anything. But then when I go trick or treating, I'm totally on brand, right? Going out there. I don't know if you saw in the news, but people have been really creative about the trick handing out candy, right? They're like building candy pults. Have you seen that?
Oh, I've seen. Yeah, tell me about this. Like, is it like a trebuchet? Is that what it is?
Basically, so, to social distance, right? You can peg somebody with a Snickers bar about 10 feet away with a candy pult, which is really exciting. Also, people are building like these huge PVC pipes, that you could slide.
Oh, yeah. I think I've seen the pipes. I've seen the pipes for the candy delivery.
It's going to be interesting. You may come home with a black eye because of the catapult. Not really sure. Are you going to take the kiddos to go trick-or-treating?
I don't know. Our oldest is 3. She just turned 3, and I think she's interested in going, but she can easily be talked out of it. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. We just moved into a new house in a new neighborhood. So I kind of think the pressure's on us to have candy for the actual trick-or-treaters,
right?
Like the ones that are out there on a mission.
Yeah.
And to wrangle a 3-year-old plus a 5-month-old, I don't know if we're up for it. It'll be a game time decision.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you taking your boys trick-or-treating?
I think we'll walk around. We'll see what we can do, and let the boys grab some candy. So it's rough because you want to do what's right? You want to not get anybody sick. You want to social distance. You want to do your thing, but then you also want to kind of like relax and eat some candy and veg out and I don't know, binge on a bunch of Snickers. Which is my favorite.
Be terrified one way or another. Terrified in a way that we're not all currently just living through terror.
Well, I mean, we have 10 months of 2020 underneath our belt. Halloween's coming up that we've probably never experienced in a way before. We have the election on November 3rd.
Oh, speaking of things that are terrifying, there's an election.
I was going to say, I mean, do you think we'll ever escape the house of horror that 2020 has unleashed on us?
Will we escape it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then, I mean, in a couple of months, it'll be 2021. So it'll be the sequel. It'll be the very bad. Hopefully it's a good sequel in the sense that there's some resolution to this story, or it could be just a bad sequel where everything gets worse. So I don't know. I don't really make predictions.
Well, I think there'll probably be a lot of binge eating of candies. So I'll make sure to leave a couple on your desk for whenever you get back, after the 3rd. But hey, listen, we have a great show for you today. A lot of things have happened at Gusto in Caleb's life. And so we'd love to jump right in. We have a super slam section. We're actually going to do something that's super on brand with the year, which is our segment called Adverse Opinions. And then after that, we're going to interview an incredible accounting professional, Justine Lackey. She'll be on the show later today. So let's dive right in. What do you say, Caleb? Should we do
why not? Why not? We're here. Let's
Adverse Opinions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. 2020, totally adverse. I disagree with 2020. That's what adverse opinions is. As a former financial statement auditor,
I'm anti 2020.
Anti 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. Where have we been, Caleb? I mean, it's been a good.
No. Where have we been?
Months.
Like we had to keep working. Gusto didn't allow us. Gusto didn't free us from our responsibilities, so we had to keep working. And so, Will, while we were away, what were you doing?
Well, you know what? We obviously totally got sucked into the pandemic, just like everybody else did, right? We all fled to work from home. True at Gusto, we're still working from home. And it's, for me, I think it's been really interesting to try to like totally just tackle what 2020 unleashed on all of us, not only as a company, but just like personally, right? Like everybody, all the kids came home from schools, everybody's working from home. Now you're juggling like the work life and the home life and the kid life. And, for me in particular, the one probably positive on our side is, I think Caleb, you already know this. My wife stays at home and she's a stay-at-home mom and she homeschools. So we were kind of like doomsday prepped ready, I guess some would say, like we were ready for something like this. But other than that, fleeing from home and just an onslaught of additional work. I mean, Gusto just cranked out so much work, so many amazing things to try to help SMBs and accountants just meet the moment. And it's been really, really awesome. I really miss all of you though. Like just miss you, Caleb, miss everybody on the team, just getting in front of everyone. But that's been my life right until this day. People Advisory was launched, but yeah.
I mean, what's that? You just glossed over that like it was nothing. Maybe you can, maybe, when did this People Advisory thing happen?
Well, you know what? So
tell us about that.
Yeah, great question. So just to level set for anybody who doesn't know who Gusto is, we're a payroll benefits and HR platform, right? For the first time, I think we created an event for accounting professionals called Gusto Next, which is what we did on July 30th. It was super top secret. We were mum's the word, right? Mum's the word. And because we were announcing something really awesome for the profession, which we were really excited about. Caleb, I remember you and I having conversations a year ago about this, right?
Yeah.
We were like, this is going to be a big moment for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we were pretty confident that it was going to be big and it was going to be meaningful. And then we actually did the work. We and the rest of our team did the work of like figuring out what it was going to be, what we thought People Advisory was going to be. And then we decided, well, shouldn't we have an event? Shouldn't we have like a big splashy announcement?
Yeah.
So we did that too. And you and I co-hosted that. And it was,
we did that all in the midst of all the extra work we were doing.
Yeah, pretty much. And then having to go do it all essentially remotely. And it was pretty wild. And that was Gusto Next. And that was back in July. It's been almost 3 months.
3 months since we launched.
Next. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, we launched at Gusto Next. Accountant and bookkeeper audience, our first ever, probably Gusto Con. Is that safe to say? Gusto conference, virtual.
Yeah,
why not? I'm going to totally upgrade it to the virtual Gusto event conference. And we launched People Advisory powered by Gusto, which in my opinion, actually, let me take a slide back here. Caleb, I think you and I, we talk about this all the time. And I think Justine will also agree when she's on the show is, we've all been talking about automation for about 10 years, right? The industry's progressing. Things are moving forward. Nothing new. Even though this is our debut back, we're saying nothing new here. But when you look at what has happened in 2020, which was so on point, was okay. What was that piece from SmartVault? SmartVault unleashed this piece called like the impact of COVID-19 on the profession. And it was like the most successful firms were the ones that were ready with automation, cloud-based stuff, and ready to boom, jump on a dime with advisory work. The ones that were least successful were the ones that were actually spending all their time trying to offset all that remote work, right? Trying to offset all the services because they were probably, clients are still coming in, files are being dropped off. And that's what we talked about at Gusto Next was just the obvious, right? It was like automation. We've been talking about it for 10 years. And then what really was acute in 2020 was the people component, right? The people component was really acute. And for you, Caleb, I mean, I know you write a lot through on the margins. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree that 2020 was the year of the employees.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the pandemic did was it really exposed a lot of the vulnerabilities that we have in our system.
As a profession.
Yeah, in the accounting, but then from a small business level, just the vulnerabilities around things like healthcare and employment and some pretty basic stuff. And so hopefully what we've done with the launch of People Advisory and the People Advisory certification, hopefully I'm not spoiling anything by mentioning that too
Oh,
soon.
no, that's fine.
But by announcing People Advisory certification and People Advisory, I think what we've done is we're encouraging the profession. Or are we encouraging? Or are we demanding? I don't know what we're doing. But basically what we're saying is let's get back to a place where we're thinking about putting the people at the center of it. Right. And that's what Gusto's all about. And so I think the timing was pretty, I don't know, it was a little bit serendipitous. We were talking about this before there was
absolutely
a pandemic. But then a pandemic happened, and the need to take care of people became, like you said,
really top of mind.
Yeah, highly acute. And so here we are, and perhaps we got lucky. I'm not clairvoyant anyway, so I can't take credit for that. But I mean, I think we were thinking about putting the people back at the center of these things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became really obvious that that's after the pandemic began to unleash itself on all of us, that's what needed to be done. Everyone understood that is what needed to be done.
Yeah, and everyone understood it, and everybody totally got it, and understood the combination of the technology aspect of things and the support of clients and their teams, right? And that was what was really exciting. I mean, it was obviously a tough year for a learning like that to happen, but some of the greatest learnings happen in tough times, I think. And that's what's been really, really great, I think, for the profession in 2020. I'm showing this visual for everybody to see, but this was something that I remember Caleb and I were kind of drafting up behind the scenes, which was, the accounting profession struggles with what I would say a little bit of an identity crisis, right? Where like you can't tell the difference between the technology and the expert, right? Or the software and the specialist. And the profession for about 10 years has been trying so hard to try to differentiate their skills from the technology that they're promoting, right? And that's why I think advisory got so big and is still big and will continue to be big. And Caleb, you and I were talking about this. There have only been a few places in practice life where some of those processes and those go-to-market strategies have actually advanced, right? Generally around technology, generally around the financial statement. And we really felt, we had the conviction prior to Gusto Next that payroll was the next thing. That was the other area of practice life that accountants were treating very conventional and very traditional that really needed to progress. And not only that, but because Gusto is a company about people, we felt like the profession was perhaps underrepresenting a certain seat at the table, which was the employee. And I remember thinking back in my practice life, the story I tell was back in 2017, I remember consulting a client of mine in San Francisco who did Salesforce implementation. A lot of great Salesforce work, and his business was booming, all good things. And in 17, he actually spent close to $500,000 in recruiter fees trying to hire teams and hire employees. And every employee that he hired through this recruiting agency left 3 months after that employee started. And I remember sitting in front of him many times, having this conversation going like, oof, like that is rough. And he would ask me, Will, what do you think I should do? And I remember saying, I consider myself very progressive and modern as far as like running a firm. I remember saying something very conventional, which was maybe you should find a cheaper recruiting firm and just being like, I don't know how to help you. And I don't know why your team is churning. And if I figured out a way to help you, perhaps I could have really impacted your business performance. And then fast forward to something like people advisory, really enabling that skill set. That's pretty much the heart of why something like why we created that as a company and a team, was because, you know, this is, you know, the modern day profession is a deeper partnership between a software company like Gusto and the practice itself. Right. And it's no longer a two-way street of, you know, we give you software, you give us money. Right. And I think the way we look at partnerships now, as far as like accounting partnerships, it should not be that way anymore. And so, you know, really excited for something like that, to like take payroll as something very conventional and turn it into something very modern, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And I'm just, maybe for the people watching, we mentioned certification. So what role does certification play in all this? And like, maybe you can talk about that a little bit, because that was a big deal too. And right now we're looking at, like, this is kind of the definition of a people advisor, right? And this kind of comes from the foundation of certification. So we now have a certification program, and people can get certified to become a people advisor. So what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, when you talk to people about it, like, what do you tell them it means?
Yeah. So, you know, what we launched at Gusto Next with that certification program. So the first of its kind in the payroll industry that enables an accounting professional to learn the people platform, that is, understand the history and the current experience of like payroll, benefits, and HR, and why all three are so integral in creating a great place to work at a company, right? And also within that certification, it includes the ability to understand what your professional value is when compared to that experience. And so inside certification, or at least the end goal of this was pretty much threefold, right? And I think it was, you know, one, to actually create a consultative framework that helps accountants be able to really communicate and sell and support clients when servicing them around payroll, benefits, and HR. To actually create a signal, and I remember that very clearly. We were all talking about that, for the profession to create a signal that the accounting professional had that level of expertise. Right now, there wasn't really a signal for, you know, that level of expertise. You were just, I think, as accounting professionals and bookkeeping professionals, we were fielding questions, right? But we weren't really signaling explicitly that we actually had expertise around payroll, benefits, and HR.
Right. Clients didn't know that we could do this stuff.
Right. Clients didn't know that we could do it. They obviously went to us as first go-to source because we're their accountant.
Right.
And then obviously we stepped up to the role. Right. And that's what you saw in 2020. Right. Who was the first professional that small businesses went to? They went to their accountant all during 2020. And the experience in 2020 was like, ooh, I don't have the expertise to really support this widely, which is what caused a lot of the massive extra work. I mean, not only from like just the manualness of all the legislation, but then also for like understanding what was happening out there and trying to translate that to a client. Right. And certification is that moment where you can upskill yourself and then be able to signal that expertise to your client proactively, not reactively, right? Like the pandemic happened to us, right? Reactive signaling, but kind of like proactive signaling, like we have this expertise and we can support you in it as a real opportunity at our firm.
Right. And as you pointed out, like this hasn't been done before. That was something that you and I talked about a lot, is that we, you know, to be, this is kind of glib, but like we made it up, but we knew it was a thing that people were doing, and we gave it a framework. We gave it some form, we gave it the shape. And then our colleague, Jacqueline Anku, created a curriculum. And that's the foundation of the certification, is the curriculum that she built. And so anyone who wants to become a people advisor can go to, what is it, gusto.com/get certified.
Yeah. Right? /get certified.
Yep.
And we even created our own noun. Right. And so I remember those conversations, because I think we were giving ourselves a hard time internally of like, we're, you know, we want to do this amazing thing, but I think I remember the comment you made to me. You said, Will, we're making this from scratch. Yep. Like we're doing something that has never been done. And we're literally forming all the edges to the pull. And we're trying to be very thoughtful about what the employee and the employer journey is, their relationship value, and then B, the accountant's value, the professional's value as it relates to that experience. Right. And so, yeah, to your point, like, yeah, it's so awesome to see out in the wild and create something new. But at the end of the day, it was very, the framework was very straightforward, which is the definition here in front of everybody, which is like, as a professional, if you become a people advisor, you basically just take your current acumen, right? Your financial acumen and your financial capability, and you combine it. You combine it with that people-focused guidance to really help clients survive. And that was like the essence of people advisory. And even though we were thinking very grand about it, the main thrust of it was like, just be yourself and support your clients and their teams. End of story.
Yeah, because a lot of people were already doing this, right, in some kind of capacity. I mean, you told the story about how, you had a client who came to you and you didn't necessarily know how to advise them, but there were firms that were kind of in the same boat, and they were kind of just muddling their way through one way or another in order to help people, I don't know, figure out these maybe whether it's a hiring problem or offering benefits or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So now my question is, because we came up with people advisory and we made this and we launched it, and there's a certification. The question is, what's been the reaction? So like, you talk to accountants a lot, and so I'm just curious, like, what are people saying right now?
Well, I mean, what's really exciting is I think we have something like over 700 individual accounting professionals certified in people advisory, something like close to like 375 firms who are people advisors certified, which is also really exciting. And so as far as like adoption, I mean, we've seen nothing but positive feedback, positive momentum. It's solving a real problem in the profession. Some firms, and Justine is one of them, we'll interview her, but some firms have fully adopted it as something to enable their team to better understand not only just the payroll, benefits, and HR journey, but then how their professional value relates to that journey and supporting the client in that. All the way to, firms doing the same and wanting to build multi-million-dollar practices around people advisory, which is really, really amazing also. And then, I think when we had first thought about people advisory, we had a high ambition of wanting to do two things. One, through Gusto, say that we would like to leave a legacy for the accounting profession. That is, we're here for the long term, and we don't treat our partnerships as just as a one-way street of like money and software, but we treat our partner program and those who are in it as real partners. Right. And the only way we felt like we could be all the more of a real partner to them was to enable them with an upskilling moment and a revenue generating opportunity for themselves. And so, I mean, that's what we had to say. And the publications like Accounting Today, Accountants World, which we'll show here in just a second, they came out and did something even stronger than what we could have ever have imagined. There was a piece written by, I think it's Bob Scott from the Progressive Accountant from Accountants World, called Payroll and Beyond. And in this piece, they talk about how what's in a name. Bruce Phillips, who's one of our partners, basically says a name is gives us the ability as a firm to tell our clients what we offer as a service, right? What kind of advisory work, financial advisory, forecasting, stuff like that. And those names are really critical. And but what Bob Scott basically said in this white paper was, as it relates to payroll and beyond, as it relates to people, what's in a name? People advisory is the name. And that's what's actually going to catapult the industry forward and the profession forward for years to come. And that's exactly what we were hoping for, because we were trying our best to really help accountants figure that out. And it's just really exciting to see that people are seeing like the vision that we were hoping to accomplish, which was, yeah, this is a great opportunity for accounting professionals to really help their clients through a really tough year.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of validation out there.
Yeah.
It seems like that we might be onto something. And then like, but more importantly, I think is that accountants they can read what's in accountants world. They can go on Gusto and they can see what it means to be a people advisor. If they haven't explored that already, they can explore certification to the extent they want to, if that's something that they want to do. And if advisory work is something that they want to start doing, and they've been slow to pick it up, like this is a potential opportunity for tons of firms that have maybe never explored this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll give a quick shout out to Dan Luthi, who's at Ignite Spot. I remember one of the quotes he said when People Advisory announced, he said, "We all agree that there's value with People Advisory and supporting clients with their teams. Defining this and creating a deeper relationship with our clients through our partnerships, let's say like with Gusto, will be critical to our firm's success." And so, what's really exciting is that there is validation. We knew it all along. And I think, Caleb, you and I are kind of like always on the front lines of all this. The profession is modernizing. Globally, accountants agree that there's been a cultural shift in the profession. And I think the way we continue to push that ball uphill is for companies like Gusto and fintech partners to join in on the journey, besides just providing the solution, but also think of creative ways to help firms modernize certain areas of practice life. So for me, I don't think Gusto's People Advisory will be the last thing that comes out as far as modernizing a service line. But I think I think we've kickstarted the conversation though.
Yep.
Which is really, really exciting. So all good stuff there, which is great. What I'd like to do is, if you've not heard of Gusto, at least tell you a little bit about Gusto before we transition to our next segment. So, Rylan, if you want to hit the little video, that'd be awesome. But if you want to expand your advisory services and offer clients more value, Gusto really is the people advisory platform of choice, powered by a people platform. So we make it easy for accountants and bookkeepers to onboard, pay, insure, and advise their hardworking clients and team when it matters most. And better yet, you can become People Advisor certified through the payroll industry's first ever advisory certification program. As a people advisor, like we said, you'll combine your financial expertise with people-focused guidance to better serve clients. You'll also get access to great perks and help your clients and your firm grow. So partner with Gusto today. Introduce your firm and your clients to better people operations and more at gusto.com/get certified. That's gusto.com/get certified.
Will, you slayed that copy.
Hey,
well done.
First time back. Let's do this.
All right. So, So what's exciting? So this is our first show back, and let's see, we've been on hiatus for about what, 7 months.
7 months.
And the old show, you and I would just find newsy stuff to talk about, and we'd yak about it, and it was fun. And we were in person, and that was essentially the show, right? And so when we started kicking around the idea that we wanted to bring On the Margins Live back, we thought, well, what can we do differently? We have to do it remotely. Like, do we want to have guests? Do we want to have, some people had the idea, I'm not going to name names, but some people had the idea of like bringing on celebrities, and I don't know how we're going to get celebrities, but anyway, that's an idea that got,
wait a minute. We have a celebrity coming on.
That we'd get celebrities on here. But anyway, what I am pleased to kind of share with everyone now is that we are going to be interviewing accountants and bookkeepers on here. We're going to try to do one for every show. We're going to try to do one for every show. And so what's exciting is that our first interview is going to be today. And what the idea is that they're going to talk about their firms. We're going to see how they're serving the clients amongst these like extraordinary circumstances. And so today we're talking to an advisor whose clients include artists and art dealers, designers, choreographers, fashion royalty. I'm taking this right off the website, Justine. Coaches, consultants, creative agencies, midwives, nonprofits, and even hedge funds. Okay. And so she's coming to us from the Hudson Valley, just outside of New York City. So we want to welcome the founder and chief wealth officer of Good Sense Bookkeeping, Justine Lackey. Justine, thanks for being our very first guest on the Margins Live.
I'm like, I am so excited.
Yeah.
With two of the heroes of the the Gusto team. I know you guys have, thousands of employees, but you guys are always on the margins and front facing. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's so good to have you.
Yeah, it is really great to have you.
Yeah.
So I guess the way I want to start this conversation with you and with, I think what a lot of people want to know in general about the people that we're going to be talking to is just tell us how you became a firm owner. Like what's the origin story, and like, how did you become who you are today?
I was working at a terrible PR job in the Chrysler building, and I had a really vicious boss, and I resigned when he went to lunch. And I went downstairs and I called a friend, and she said, "Hey, I need help in the office." And I just had a natural knack for numbers, and I was about 20 years old at the time. And I got under the wing of an accounting firm. I became the darling of one of the famous fashion photo editors of the time, who referred me to all the fashion people. And the next thing you know, I was the it girl for fashion bookkeeping. And that's how it started. And 14 years ago, when I left the city and had children, I started a firm. And so here we are, 10 people later.
So you have 10 employees.
Yeah, the team is about 10 of us, yes, including.
Okay, that's cool. And so what does your firm, does it specialize in bookkeeping?
Yes. So all we do is bookkeeping.
Okay.
I'm a big believer of the niche market. So all we do is bookkeeping. We only work in QuickBooks Online, so we don't dabble in all the other stuff. And Gusto is our preferred people platform. So we consider ourselves Gusto experts also.
All right. Well, thanks for that. That's awfully sweet of you. So,
okay.
It's
only because I actually love the product. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to rub up.
We can't take credit. Will and I can't take credit for the product. I mean,
your engineers rock.
That's right. Quick question. So makes a ton of sense to verticalize in like bookkeeping, and it sounded like you serve both like the creative industry. How did you get into the hedge fund side of things?
That was really interesting. It was a referral. Like a lot of, most of our business comes through referral and SEO. It's about 75-25. Now a little bit with social, but it was a referral, and it was two people who were starting a social entrepreneurship hedge funds. And yeah, so that happened. And, they did eventually, I came in the beginning when they were just getting, a lot of times I come in the beginning and set up the accounting infrastructure, the policies that, standard operating procedures. And of course, they eventually hired a CFO and internal accounting team, but yeah, it is on my client roster.
And how's it been? I mean, just looking back, right? We're 10, like we said earlier, 10 months into 2020. How's it been looking back, supporting those clients through everything that we've gone through? What are some takeaways that you walked away with or that you have right now?
So I think you said something interesting earlier about being ready. And, those of us who were ready and were able to respond quickly, it was extremely challenging, but we weren't dealing with the technological hurdles of Good Sense was not, because we've been virtual for many years. And I have been an early adopter since I was a teenager. And so we didn't have to deal with all the, how are we going to deal with the virtual stuff? We had that down pat. And the other thing was timing, which we were just lucky with in some regards. New York State closed down on March 13th, and all of our tax work was already done. So by February 28th, as a company policy, we have all of our tax work done and out the door. And so when the PPP stuff hit, we weren't dealing with that. Of course, they pushed back the April 15th deadline, but we weren't dealing with all of those other things that maybe firms who weren't ready.
Yeah, that's interesting because that did happen, right? Tax season got totally extended, probably the worst tax season I've ever seen, as far as like everything that happened, and then just nobody ever wants tax season to be pushed out. But yeah. but that's interesting that you were able to get yourself in a position where a lot of the work that supported the tax work was already done, and I think that's a great place to be in.
We had we already had all the 2019 payroll records saved in the cloud. So when we had to go fill out those PPP forms, it was there. We didn't have to go rustling around. Of course, it was beautiful that I opened up the Gusto platform and clicked the button and boom, the report showed up. But had I not had that research, I also had backup digital files.
And how was that research? I mean, like Caleb, I'd love to, I mean, Caleb wrote some pieces as well, unpacking the CARES Act. I mean, I think here's what we experienced at Gusto, which was we totally got flooded with content, right? Like we need to read these long pieces of legislation and then turn around and serve it up in more bite-sized portions in order to help support both SMBs and accountants. Was it kind of the same experience for you, or you were just it was like this huge influx you were trying to digest and communicate out, or how was your overall experience?
Well, I also have 3 school-age children. So it was an onslaught from our district of, digital communication. I coined a term for it, the information tsunami. So it's just all, waves and waves of it. But we really could not have done the work that we did for our clients without Gusto's presentations of breaking down the PPP process, breaking down the EDA loans, the guidelines to the guidelines to the guidelines
oh my
that
gosh.
happened. Oh yeah. And, I'm not a stranger to legal documents. I'm very, I unfortunately have read a lot of tax stuff. But it was intimidating. So we really leaned hard on you guys. And we ended up securing about $1 million in those different funding resources for our clients. So,
wow.
you guys directly impacted the lives of employees across the country. So I don't think that's a small accomplishment.
Is that primarily how you were serving clients during this time, was like finding funding? Was that, or what other kind of things were you doing to support them during that time?
No, I would say probably 80% of the client work we were doing between probably starting around April 1st, 3rd, something like that, straight through like the second week of May. That was, I mean, we have a lot of provisions in Good Sense about meeting our contractual obligations to our clients. So that was on top of the normal, regular monthly or weekly bookkeeping we were doing. But yeah, I mean, we were actually, so we only do bookkeeping. We don't do tax work. I'm not a CPA. We don't brand ourselves that way. But clients actually turn to us first before their accountants. So, Good Sense was sort of the first floodgate, so to speak. And then, we were, of course, turning to the accountants for hey, can you double check before we hit the submit button?
Yeah.
And so you were helping folks prepare the necessary information to either apply for PPP loans or other financing?
So I consider Good Sense Bookkeeping a boutique bookkeeping firm. So it's totally white glove. So we weren't just preparing those numbers. We were filling out the applications.
Okay.
We were doing everything but putting the digital signature on the document. So.
Gotcha. And so we're kind of in the I don't know, we're kind of in the post PPP world, right? People are still using that money, and some people are applying for forgiveness now. But like, how else, since we're post PPP, how have things changed for you in terms of serving your clients? Like, aside from just the regular stuff, has new stuff come up since that time?
I mean, I think that, people are looking to us and asking us, okay, so, we have to be lean and mean right now. What are our options? How can we, where can we trim, so to speak? And sort of, of course, the cash burn rate is coming into play. And also being nimble and responsive. I told you, I'll date myself, but, I started my bookkeeping career in my early 20s. My oldest client has been with me for 19 years. I know that because my daughter's turning 18 and I met him when I was pregnant. So you have to be nimble in situations like this when a business loses half of its income. When restaurants can't open, your relationship with your clients is people-based. And we did things like anybody who was in the hospitality industry, we completely waived their bookkeeping fees. Because that was a way that we had to support them. This was a way that we could give back to our community and give back to our clients. So we did things like that. And Or, people were working with us weekly and now they don't have the hours to support that. Okay, let's move you down to a monthly, a monthly scope. So being adaptive with your scope is really, really important, because then you're honoring what's happening with that person. And if you're honoring what's happening with them, they know you're invested in them. And that's really the stuff that builds relationships over time.
Yeah, that's such a good point, and that incredible for you and your team to do that, Justine. I mean, not many firms would actually do something like that, which just goes to speak to how much you care about your clients. I remember, like, during the pandemic, one of the themes out there was kind of like educate now, earn later, or support now, earn later, and a lot of firms just basically threw down the gauntlet for their client, right, and said, you know what, we'll talk business later.
Yeah.
Let's just, be there, be supportive, step up. And, as far as I'm concerned, I'm really proud of my profession for what it's done this year.
There's the economic first responders.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great term. Economic first responders.
Two today. You heard them here first.
Wow. Justine, bam. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you're right. Economic best, first responders. I mean, accountants were them. We were the first ones to totally step up to our own, already detriment of like working during a busy tax season. And then we fell prey to like just the whiplash of the legislation, and is tax season being extended or not, or what's going on. So that's so awesome that you were able to do that. And what has that done between you and your clients? I mean, I think the obvious answer is it brought you closer together, but what have you heard? Like, what stories from your clients and their teams have you heard that would say, hey, Justine, if you wouldn't have done this, we wouldn't have done that?
I don't know if we've gotten any direct feedback, but that's not the sort of thing that I'm going to like claw for feedback around. More like process oriented. Are you happy? Did we miss the mark on something? What did we miss? How can we help? And that was really when the People Certified platform was launched. That was really the impetus for me to get certified. Skill building is really important. I think particularly staying relevant in your career is really important. And I don't care where you are in the professional spectrum, but particularly in accounting, because it's changing so fast. And finding real skill building opportunities are hard, and quality control is sketchy. It's asking about, well, what's next? How can I help you more?
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Justine, actually, her entire firm is one of the first firms in the United States or ever to become fully People Advisor certified, her and her entire team. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I mean, you said that was like the impetus when you were walking towards that decision and saying, I'm going to do this, and here's what I really want to get out of it. What else inspired you around adopting even that framework and methodology and even certification?
So there's a book called Rework, which is written by the guys who made Basecamp. It's a project management software. And in it, they have a great little gem of wisdom, like whatever job you're going to do, you should do it yourself first, because then you'll know how to delegate it and you'll know how to do it right. So I did the People certification first, and I wanted to see what it was about. And I knew Gusto was going to put out some great content, but I don't always deal with my clients day to day. It's my bookkeepers who are interfacing with the clients. So as I was going through the training, I was saying, look, like, I'm not going to know if client C needs this. Angela on my team is going to be able to see one of those signals that you talked about. Mm-hmm. And so once I went through it, we have a team meeting, and I said, it's great. If you do it, you'll get paid to do it. You'll get special treat after you do it. Because I really do believe investing in the skill building of the team, because investing in them makes them feel good about themselves. It also makes us better prepared to serve our clients. So unlike your client who spent gazillions of dollars on recruiting fees, like our client retention rate, we have a pretty strong retention rate when it comes to our employees. So I'm proud of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I remember reading a piece of research recently from Sage, and it was like the practice of now. I think that's an annual piece that they roll out. And in there, it was saying that a lot of accounting professionals, bookkeeping professionals felt really insecure about the the typical approach to training. That is like the current set of training isn't really speaking to or conducive to the current line of work that accounting professionals are doing. And I'm just curious to have your take, you know, as you're investing in your team, how do you balance like making sure, like you said, making sure that they stay relevant? Is that the most important thing to you as you're adopting things like that versus the skill itself?
Well, I think, the truth of the matter is we live in a virtual world now, right? That is what it is. And so content and the delivery of that content is key. And I think one of the reasons why I fell in love with Gusto, and I've been involved with the internet since basically it first went live. I mean, I launched the Budweiser website when it was 18 pages, New York Times boss models, is the user experience. And the user experience just from the Gusto platform is so user-friendly. And I love that. And when you're going through a training, it has to be user-friendly. It has to be beautiful. It has to be, it's short, videos, cheat sheets or other complementing materials. And when I saw the live event in July, I'm like, I know if Gusto put together a training based on their software, it's going to be awesome. So I'm not just looking for the content of how to stay relevant. How you deliver that content is how it's going to land and how it's going to stick, right? So you could go through any course in the world, but if you don't retain the information, why waste your time?
Yeah, why waste your time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Caleb, anything else before we kind of come to a wrap?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just great. Justine, thanks so much for sharing your story about your firm, how you've been getting through this, how you've been serving clients. I think it's just inspiring to hear the stories of people who are making a difference for folks, because it's a hard time. And I think people,
Totally.
it's one of those things where it's like we need as much good news as we can get. And so to hear about how you've been serving folks and helping them, carry on through a very difficult time is great to hear. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, kudos to you and your team. And I mean, for partnering with Gusto and even going through certification. But I think a lot of that drive is just your passion for what you do and your passion for caring and loving on your clients, which is amazing to see. And I think that is always the impetus to so much good things after the fact, right? So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show and being our first guest.
I'm so happy to be here, and welcome back. Keep up the great work. And thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Justine.
Thanks,
all right.
Justine.
Have a great week, guys.
All right.
You too. All right.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was amazing. Love Justine. Never met her. And it was awesome to meet her and just to see the incredible voices out there. I'm always impressed as to like how passionate people are about the profession. This is why you and I are so personally very passionate about it. It's such a good place. There are so many good people and so many people who really care about the client, which causes a lot of good work upstream, right? Keeping people like Gusto accountable to creating those good experiences and the good learnings and really just delivering on an amazing people platform.
Well said. So I think that's a wrap on our first show, right?
Yep. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah, we're going to do some credits. This edition of On the Margins Live was produced by me, Will Lopez. Will Lopez and I both wrote it. Our co-producers, hey, they're right there. Mohini Kundu and Andrea Garcia Vargas. And also special thanks for video and sound production by Waylon Janowick and Rylan Harris. We'll make sure those guys get up on the screen next time. And to become a better advisor, it's right at the bottom of your screen. Go to gusto.com/get certified. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Will, thanks to you for being my co-host.
Yeah, as
and we'll see you all in 2 weeks for the next edition of On the Margins Live.
take care.
Yeah.